members of parliament, and one thing that has come up very strongly is the Adani deal. And I will pose this question to you, Melly. I'm looking at, there was some progress in the Adani deals, that is the Adani airport and still the energy solutions. Of course, the people before then we heard that the people had conducted their due diligence. These people misled the country. Should they be held accountable?
I'm sure.
Because maybe there are some costs that will come with the cancellation.
Yes, in cancellation of any tender that has already, you have an award letter, and you have even done acceptance, you have accepted the offer. Mm-hmm. Once it is cancelled, there are also always repercussions of cancelling a tender. You will be, if they go to court and seek recourse, they would be granted. But at the same time, you look at the contract. There is always a conflict of interest form where you feel. You also expose any other litigation issues that you could have, previous litigation issues, and perhaps the current that are ongoing. If we follow clauses that are always in the contracts, actually it's usually, if you go to www.ppra.go.ke, you will find a standard tender document that is there, and it shows us actually what happens in case a tender is cancelled. And looking at the US investigation and the fraud charges that are leveled against the Adani Group in the US, it shows that this is a company or a conglomerate of companies that perhaps get their tenders using shoddy deals. How would you go bribing in the US? Because that is daring the devil himself. So that tells you there are questions about how they got this tender. Was it competitive in the first place? If they were just awarded, then that shows that there were shady deals behind it. So the people who invited them in the first place, the person who gave them the contract, if there is any that they signed, should be held accountable, because it should be competitive in the first place. If you were to tender today and you are given singly without competing against others, already you are in violation of the law. That means you didn't get it.
In other words, we should have, there were some red flags, and Kenyans on social media and even during public participation talked about these people have had issues in their own country. Should we have maybe taken those red flags a little bit more serious before now we hear the US are even looking for some of
the first time I heard about the Adani, I Googled them, and there is enough online, not even about the young Kenyans. Yes. You go online, you see the fraud charges that are actually, they have a bad name. Even though they are a big group, you could be a big amorphous group, but if there are fraud charges on you, there are questionable issues about you, then there is a lot of issues to raise. Actually, Kenyans were not wrong. Those young people, remember, the young generation we have are more informed than some of us, the millennials. The Gen Z are more informed. They Google, they search, they research, and at the end of the day, what they table is almost the gospel truth. It's for you now to do your due diligence. So, having been cancelled by the head of state is also another thing, because there are things that come with presidential amnesty. You know, the president can even forgive you as a murderer and get you out of jail if he uses his powers given to him by the Constitution. So perhaps there are also clauses. I wish there was a lawyer here to advise us. There are clauses that allow the president also to cancel some things that he feels that are shady. And the president was truthful that when he said that he's listened to the concerns of the people. And I think by cancelling Adani, Kenyans had raised enough concerns.
All right.
The cries have been heard.
All right. Let me go back to now Adani Energy Solutions. One of the reasons why Adani Energy Solutions was chosen was to bring the cost of power down, and especially for manufacturers who have singled out the cost of manufacturing as being quite high, especially due to power. Now, which way do we take? Because at the end of the day, these people from the energy solutions, they had already started. It's not more or less, it's not like the airport deal. Because they are already on the ground, now we need to bring the cost of power down. What next? On which ways should we now maneuver? Because at the end of the day, I feel that Adani, and especially for the energy solutions, they will be headed to court, which would make the quest for cheaper power in the country quite something.
Before Adani came into the picture, I think the Ketraco was still operating. Yes. So I don't think this cancellation is just going to mean that Ketraco is going to shut down. Secondly, maybe it would be paramount to just focus on alternative sources of energy. It's amazing to see that in other countries, and I say this a lot, in other countries where they don't have solar energy 24 hours, they still depend on solar energy for manufacturing. There are other sources of energy that we can use to support the manufacturing industry. So in as much as maybe this expansion project did not work, I still believe there are alternative sources that can still be used by manufacturers. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about this single entity that has cancelled. So operations should not come to a standstill because of the cancellation.
Melly, there's also something else that the members of parliament have mentioned in regards to and actually we saw their reaction, the conflict of interest bill. Let's be very honest. There are a number of members of parliament who are still doing business with government, and especially when it comes to the NCGDF.
I think the conflict of interest bill should be specific, especially when it comes, for example, in assuming I have a constituency that I run, mm-hmm. and I have brothers and sisters who are interested in doing business with the constituency. I don't think it's morally right to work in my constituency. Rather, they are allowed to work elsewhere, but not within the same constituency. The same thing applies if you are the president and your children are doing business with the government of Kenya. That is conflict of interest. They should look for work elsewhere. Unfortunately, this is the norm, where people register companies, give it to their cousins, their sisters, and at the end of the day, when you go competing as a Kenyan, it is about who knows who. So your company, it becomes just an escort that escorts the other companies to show that they were actually competitive. But at the end of the day, the tender goes to the same family that the leader comes from. That is not right. If they want to do business, for example, they should wait for your term to end or look for it in another constituency, in another county, or other part of the country. But I think having been, for example, the family of the president, you saw Rigiji, the deputy president, having conflict of interest with his sons. Because at the end of the day, being a leader, national leader, if, for example, I own a bank and a son of the president comes to my bank and asks for a loan, you know, they will not go through due diligence, because first, I'll be shivering and yes, because this is a big person from a big family. At the end of the day, they will get favors that others will not get, even in tendering. Imagine you are in the tendering committee undergoing evaluation. Then you are told this company belongs to the deputy president or the president or the cabinet secretary. At the end of the day, you will end up having some favors to those companies. So this bill should actually bar anyone from doing business with government where there is a conflicting interest.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my director, Mogo Kariuki, informs me that I have 3 minutes, so I'll give you each half of that time to ensure that your last statements are also factored in. Beginning with you, Daisy.
Right. So from the State of the Nation address, it was worth noting that the president really tried to show his style of leadership has changed a bit, and he repeatedly said that he's listened to the people. So it's a matter of time. It really is a matter of time. If surely the dollar has gone down to 129, then all these other things are going to come into play. Eventually, then we're expecting fuel to go down. We're expecting then the cost of living to improve. So all this only time will tell. That's all I can tell you.
Meli, as we wrap up?
As we wrap up, and I would say is that let's give this government time. They have 5 years to fulfill their promises. If by the end of their term, they would not have done what they promised to do, then we will give them a scorecard, either send them home or give them another term. Otherwise, any other person who has been given responsibility to roll out government projects and ensure that they are being done should do their due diligence. We are serving Kenyans, we are all Kenyans, and at the end of the day, we want to be remembered at our old age that we are the people who shaped Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you. Sami Meli, their governance and also a political commentator. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. And as always, shukran sana. And Daisy Odhiambo, who is a business development manager at Certifra Freight, Supply Chain Solutions there. And earlier on, we also had Kabasa, my editor, Edward Kabasa, and also Kamche Menza on the other side of Parliament, who have been bringing us the conversation live. Thank you so much, and on behalf of everyone, a big group worked to ensure that you receive these live proceedings from Parliament and also from here, Broadcasting House. On behalf of everyone, thank you so much for watching. My name is Bentro Njue, and Brian Muraru is our sign language interpreter on the bottom right of your screen. Thank you so much.
Moja katika jinsi ya kuweza kujibiwa dua za Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ni kwa kufanya rakaa 2 na kusoma dua. Ukiwa na haja yote, jambo lolote unalitaka katika mambo yako ya kidini na dunia na akhera, nenda shika udhu, swali swala ya suna au rakaa 2 au swala ya faradhi, unakuwa karibu ukiwa na Allah subhanahu